Talk about a good start. Imagine the thrill of starting your marathon running over the iconic Sydney Harbour Bridge, the sun rising and the city waking up beneath your feet. This isn't just any race, it's your chance to run Australia's first ever Abbott World Marathon Major. The TCS Sydney Marathon, presented by ASICS Ballot, is open now. Don't miss this opportunity to be part of history. Register at tcssydneymarathon.com. This week's guest has been the name on everyone's lips the last couple of years. He was the second youngest person to break the 4-minute mile behind Jakob Ingebrigtsen and holds the world record for the fastest mile by a 16-year-old. At the age of 17, he ran 1,500 metres in 3:33 and earlier this year won a silver medal at the World Junior Championships. Welcome to the Inside Running Podcast, Cam Myers.
Thanks for having me. I think this one was a long time coming, so yeah.
Yeah, I had notes written down from, I think, before you turned pro. So yeah, a couple of years. So it's good to finally happen, but it's probably good holding off because we've got more to talk about now.
Yeah, plenty to talk about. This is probably a decent week to do it too. So off the back of Zatopek, it's a long time coming.
Yeah, so I was going to bring up that. So good start to the season. So you ran a 5-second PB on the weekend, lowering your under-20 national record to 7:41. What were your goals going into that race?
I really wasn't focused about the time. Just get a win. We had a pacer. Brad offered to pace, which was super good. He's a great pacer. He 62.5 seconds a lap, which is pretty comfortable off the first 4 laps. So yeah, just get the pace rolling a little bit faster than what it was last year, because last year was 1 in 8 minutes, which is a bit of a dawdle. So yeah, just get the win under the belt, which was probably the main goal.
From an outside looking in, because you basically took up the running once the pacemaker dropped out, and so from me looking at it, it was almost like you were wanting to basically get an indication of where your fitness was at, and that even if that meant potentially losing the race by somebody out kicking you. But were you confident, even though you were doing a lot of that leading, that you'd still out kick those guys at the end?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a little bit difficult being the guy. The guy speeding up after the paces drops out. It's a little bit of a vulnerable position, but I think, I was pretty comfortable running 62s, even after Brad pulled out. So I was like, well, I may as well just keep it rolling. And then Jack came around me, and that was actually a good thing, because I kind of find it hard to accelerate off the front. Like, sometimes I need someone to go past me to sort of get that wake-up call. So it was actually good having Jack come around me, and then I could just sort of latch on, and then I felt quite comfortable. So yeah, it was good to get sort of an indication of where the fitness is. And I think next time I run 3K, whether that be in March, maybe in Sydney, I might try and go 3-4 seconds quicker through the 1600 and see how we go doing that.
What do you reckon you would have run if you'd had like the guys of Jakob and those guys like on the front, where you didn't have to do any work and you could just sit in? Like, you reckon you've got like a mid 7:30 in there?
Yeah, I'd like to think that I could run 7:36, 7:35 maybe. Probably not Jakob's race, because now that people are running like 7:17, it's kind of changes that whole perception about 7:35. But I think given how comfortable I was, probably a good couple of seconds quicker.
All right, we might go through your PBs. So we'll start with the 800. So 147.11, which was earlier this year at the ACT Champs. Same race where Peyton Craig broke the under 20 800 metre record.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that race?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I could pretty much see him. Like, I reckon I could almost touch him with like 200 metres to go, and he was just gone. And that was I didn't know that I ran so quick. I was just trying to catch Parrot. Parrot was like one spot in front of me, and I was like, I can catch him. And I just kept coming, and I was pretty happy with that, 147.
And did you really know Peyton at that point?
We'd actually done, because obviously we're both pretty similar age, so we'd raced quite a lot. So I hadn't seen him pretty much in like a year, because he had pretty much a year off because of, I think he had a shin stressy or something. So I hadn't really seen him, but he had a 147 prior to that. So yeah, 145 though, that was, an unreal run.
And were you happy with that time? Because it was sort of, I was out there watching it and was always like, oh, how good is this race going to be? Like, two up-and-coming juniors, and he obviously, towed you up that day.
He got me pretty good that day.
Were you hoping to go a bit quicker?
Not really. To be honest, I was pretty happy with that. Like, don't really do too much specific, like 800 sessions or anything. So I was pretty happy with that. And I'd like to think, because that was pretty much my first race, I'd like to think if I ran one the week after, I'd run half a second quicker, maybe. So, that was probably a good indication of where I was at. So.
Yeah, I was looking forward to the rematch of you and Peyton at Maury Plant, but then you turned the tables there and smacked him up pretty easily.
Yeah, I guess the miles can be pretty difficult. And they're also a lot more mentally difficult than a 1500, where you actually have to do 4 laps opposed to 3 3/4. I think that extra 109 meters actually, can be quite daunting.
He was saying on one of our interviews that he probably does see himself more as a 1500 meter miler, like, down the track. So no doubt you two will probably have a few ding dong battles, I'd imagine. Yeah,
he's sort of like a Gregor almost, I reckon, because he's quite quick and he has that ability just to like flick the switch, and it's quite it's different to how some of the the more current milers are running nowadays. So
1,000 metres, 2:17.44, which is an under 20 Aussie record, and it was only 1.35 seconds off Jeff Risley's national record. That was in Hengelo.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about Jeff Risley's record when I was doing that. I was thinking I might give that a bit of a shake, but I was quite far off in the end, to be fair. I think I just got out a little bit too slow. I think the 1K is such an awkward distance because you actually have to go through the 800 quite fast, and I think if you leave too much, too late, you can't really make up time. 2:17, not too bad. I think had Peyton run one this year, I probably wouldn't have that record. So I don't know how long that one will stand for.
1,500, 3:33.26, 2023 in the Silesia Diamond League in Poland. So this was your Diamond League debut.
Yeah.
You just turned 17. Jakob runs 2:27, which for him was a PB at the time. That must have been an unreal experience.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I think that was pretty much like the perfect race to run a PB. Couldn't really ask for much more. It was just a perfect day, perfect weather. Jakob was obviously running 3:27, so he had Stewie pacing him to 1,200, so it was like perfectly strung out. I just sat on, I think I was like second to the back the whole way, came past maybe one guy at the end, and I ran 3:33. And I pretty much, did nothing all race, which is a pretty easy way to run 3:33. So, I probably should have beat it last year, but didn't quite get that same race, so,
we came within 400ths of a second of Bankstown, which, arguably, that was probably a better run to run similar time at Bankstown compared to a Diamond League. But talk us through, what's it like being a 17-year-old on the global stage in a Diamond League? Like, what were the nerves like on the start line for that race?
I don't really get too nervous, it doesn't really faze me too much. It was pretty unreal. I think this year doing London, that was pretty sick because that was like 60,000 people. And so Keely Hodgson just broke the record for the 800 just before me. So that was like nuts. The whole stadium was pretty much shaking. So, that was crazy. I don't really get too nervous for anything, so it doesn't really faze me that much.
And why do you think it is you don't get nervous?
I couldn't tell you really. It's probably not a great thing. I think you want a little bit more adrenaline than that, but I think some of the time I think these Australian races I get a little bit more nervous because it's like it feels like there's more on the line, and you want to win at home on home soil, so
All right, we'll move to the mile. So 3:50.15 at this year's Prefontaine Classic. Phenomenal run, although you come 11th. And the thing that stands out for me is every time that you've run these races, like your 3:33.26 as a 17-year-old, 3:50.15, like they're phenomenal times. But every interview I've heard after the race, it's almost like yeah, it was okay. Like I want more, and I need to be better. Like
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
want to be finishing 11th.
Yeah,
I
that's
want
the
to be
thing.
up there, but it's like you're 17. Like
Yeah. It's difficult because, coming 11th, you're never going to be too happy. I guess, yeah, you're just so far back. It's like there's a whole nother race happening. And I think it's like, it really does show you the levels to it because, I mean, obviously Jakob being like, 5 seconds ahead, you can barely even see him. And I think like, lap to go, it was quite, So lap to go, I think Neil Gawley was like one spot ahead of me and he ended up finishing fourth and running like 3:47. So it does show you like, it's quite possible to go and, have that big breakthrough. So yeah.
But I think it shows that you're quite, rather than sort of going like, how good am I? It's almost like, no, I need to get back to work.
Yeah.
And it's obviously like, it's sort of a champion's mentality, I suppose, of wanting more and, not sort of resting on your laurels.
Yeah, definitely don't enjoy getting towed up and coming 11th, but hopefully not too many more of those. So.
And we've spoken about your 3,000 metres, which was last weekend, 7:41.11. All right, let's take a step back and how you sort of got into running. Although you're still relatively young, when did you start running? Were you doing other sports?
Yeah, so I was always playing like soccer, football, in Canberra, and I guess I played that through most of high school. Actually, maybe not. I think I quit when I was like 14 or 15. I don't remember exactly when it was. And then I just decided, I think it was just before we actually went into lockdown. So it was a pretty good time to quit, actually.
High level?
Yeah, pretty high level in Canberra. Obviously, if I went to another state, I wouldn't be playing at that same level. But that was quite fun. Kept me nice and fit, which was good. But I just really didn't enjoy the training. So I think that was where running came in. I enjoyed the training. I was training under Lee Bobbin at the time, and that was quite fun. I enjoyed that.
So when you were doing the soccer, you're still doing running training like all year round?
Yeah, so I was just training. I think at the time, I really wasn't doing much like easy jogging or anything like that. It was pretty much like I was doing soccer training and then I was just doing like intensity on the track, I guess 3 times a week. And that was pretty much it. And I guess you could stay relatively fit doing that. And I think I don't know how fast I would have run off that training. Probably like 3:54, I think, in the 1500. So like,
how many Ks a week would you been running? Like, so take out soccer training. Like, how many running Ks a week?
Yeah, it would probably fluctuate. I was pretty lazy back then too. I didn't really enjoy getting out for any runs that wasn't like, I guess, sessions. So I was probably running like 30K a week maybe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, at the max. So.
And then when did you then go all in sort of on the running?
So probably, I think maybe 2021. I just decided I'd drop soccer. Started running like 70K a week, nothing really more than that. It was pretty consistent. And then had a bit of a breakthrough, went to 3:46 that year.
Yeah.
So, that year. And then I also started joining in with Dick as well, because obviously Lee coached myself, but also Tom Palfrey. And so I guess Tom Palfrey sort of needed someone else to train with. And I guess at the time you would have had like Jai and some of the other guys training. So it sort of worked perfectly. I was able to sit in the back of the pack. I think I even started training with the girls at the time. So I was training with the girls for like a year. And I honestly got pretty fit doing that. So
when you started focusing just purely on running, like what was sort of your weekly mileage at that point? And what would your long run been?
So probably like 70K and not much of a long run, maybe like an hour at max, 14 or 15K maybe. Still to this day I don't do much of a long run. I guess in my current setup it's not really that important, so yeah.
And is there like a session that stands out or a race where something clicks with you and you're like, oh my God, like I have gone to a new level. I could actually make a career out of this sport. Like, do you remember that sort of turning point?
Nothing really, I guess sessions, but I guess over time I just got pretty much like, I didn't make the World Juniors that year, 2022. And so that's when I just decided, all right, probably need to up my mileage, get a little bit stronger. So I started I had a full winter behind me at that stage, so that was probably the biggest defining moment. It was just getting like, I guess 6 to 8 months of just solid, like, it wasn't even crazy mileage, probably 80, 90k a week. And I guess I did that for 6 to 8 months, and that was probably the biggest difference. Yeah, didn't really have any crazy sessions at the time, but yeah, I think I did a 1200 in like 257. And then at the time I was only like, 346 guys. So I sort of knew that I was probably at around 342, 343 shape at that time. So yeah, and then I guess I just kept the training going all the way up until pretty much that time that I ran 340 at Box Hill. So.
Yeah. And were you like a really active kid? Like, so from the age of like 6, even like 6 to 10, like, was it just soccer? Were you doing other things?
Yeah, well, I was pretty active. I'd just do anything really. Whether that be riding my bike, I don't know. Yeah, I was pretty active, just doing any sports really. I guess at that sort of age, it doesn't really matter what you're doing as long as you're outside.
Because to see your improvement over such a short period of time, like, are there athletes in your family, like your mum, your dad, aunties, uncles, brothers, sisters that have been like good at sport? Not
really to that high level, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think, but I can't think of anyone.
And you got brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I got a sister. She did running for a little bit. So she actually was training with Lee Bobbin before I was. So that was kind of the reason I switched over to him. So yeah.
And then when you sort of got into the sport, were there athletes that you looked up to?
I guess probably the main ones would have just been like Jai and I guess Rory too, because that year that Jai and Rory finished first and third at nationals, and of course Nipper too, because Nipper won the steeple. That was pretty big, and obviously at the time I probably would have been 14 or 15, so that was pretty massive, and especially because Jai beat Stewie that year, which was Stewie back then was pretty much unbeatable domestically anyways. So yeah, that was massive. I obviously looked up to Jai quite a lot, and then obviously he ran in was it Oslo? I think it was Oslo. He ran 3:49 for the mile. That was unbelievable. So yeah, I looked up to him for a while.
You seem quite knowledgeable on the sport, like your stats and like.
Yeah.
Has this always been the case? Like, even when you were maybe not focusing as much on running and you're still doing soccer, like.
I think when I stopped playing soccer, I just became a little bit of a nerd on running. So I guess I definitely would call myself a fan of the sport. I keep up to date with everything. So yeah.
All right, so let's chat about the that crazy period when you're 16.
Yeah.
You miss Jakob's record for being the youngest person to break 4 minutes for the mile by like 9 days.
Yeah.
And from that point onwards, there's just been this like constant comparison to you versus Jakob. Like, do you enjoy that? Does it add more pressure to you?
To be honest, yeah. As I talked about, like the nerves, I don't really feel much like. So I honestly it's kind of cool having my name in the same sentence as Jakob, but yeah, hopefully just continue to keep improving, and as long as that comparison's there, it probably means I'm doing an okay job. So I don't mind it, but obviously we're very different athletes, we very different training, very different trajectories, so I don't really buy into it that much. So
because like Australia's had lots of talented juniors in the past, and they've made national headlines, but what you were doing was creating a bit of a storm worldwide. Like, you go onto Let's Run forums and your names are there. Like, obviously, like that would be quite overwhelming for like seasoned professionals, but you're 16. Like, what was it like living? Like, what was it like going to school? Like, did people know about it at school? Obviously your social media would have blown up. Like, were there famous people sliding into your DMs where you're just like, oh my God, this person's following me? Like, just talk us through that period.
I think the coolest part was just like, so I ran the 355, and then I woke up the next day and I had like, I don't know, I guess 8,000-9,000 more followers than the night before. So it's kind of just like, it's just weird, just refreshing my Instagram and having people follow me every second. So yeah, that was quite weird. And then there was another time, I don't know if you know Danny Duncan. He's a YouTuber in America. He's got like, I don't know how many million subscribers, but he's pretty popular. And he hit me in the DMs and he was asking me to promote something, which was like, I was not promoting it because it's like, it's not worth promoting. But that was pretty funny too. So yeah, as for going to school and stuff like that, I think I actually go to a school which was, obviously quite a lot of athletes, professional athletes have gone through that school. So that was probably pretty good because it kept me nice and grounded, I would say. So obviously, I was pretty well known, but there's all athletes there that were like, I guess, on the same level or better than me. So yeah.
And was there a pro runner that started following you that you're like, oh, that was pretty cool? Like,
yeah, I think Chapter guy,
right.
guy followed me the day after, so that was pretty cool because I was like, wow, yeah, Chapter guy. I think even maybe Fred Curley followed me because obviously he would have been there that year. I think he ran the 200 there.
Yeah.
So Fred Curley started following me. That was also pretty cool.
And has Jakob ever sort of reached out or like acknowledged the fact that like you've run faster than him as a 16-year-old? Like, have you had much interaction with him?
No, I actually haven't had any interaction with Jakob on a personal level. I guess that he probably might have seen something because at the time I think I was in like Norwegian news and stuff, and so like it would be pretty hard not to see me at some point. So I guess he probably does know about. Oh well, we've obviously raced as well, so he probably would have seen my name on a style list at like Prefontaine or something. So yeah. We haven't actually said anything to each other. Even at races, I just like happened to miss him, but yeah.
And were there certain people that were helping you during that period with obviously the hype and what to do from like with the media and like?
Yeah. So my manager, James Templeton, he was pretty good because I don't really like enjoy doing heaps of media stuff. It's probably, not my favourite thing to do. So I don't mind the occasional interview, depends like who it's with, I guess. So he was kind of like very selective with the things we did, and I guess I didn't actually have to do many in the end, which was quite good. So.
Yeah. So obviously there would have been the option for you to go to college. I know when we were chatting about the original interview that we're going to do, there was potential talk about Oregon and stuff like that. Why did you choose not to go to college?
I think just the setup here is quite good. Like, I don't think it could be really optimized in any way. Like, I think if college had something to offer me that was gonna, make it quite a big difference in my performance, then it would probably be something I'd go and consider and do. And I think like the biggest thing that's the most appealing about college is just how much racing experience you get, and I think that that's quite invaluable, especially like, I guess you could do, the indoors, the outdoors. You do the 15, the 3, the mile, you get so many different racing opportunities. And I think that that's quite good when you get to, a national champs or like, I guess the heats of a world championships or something. I guess you're pretty honed in on the racing side of things. So that's pretty appealing. But other than that, I guess for one, you're probably not going to get, opportunities to run fast times. And it's like, it's not really guaranteed that you're going to fit into the college system either in that sort of training setup. And just being sort of more just another guy on a team rather than just being an individual that gets, a tailored program that, fits you as an individual.
Yeah. And so what is it about here in Canberra that you think is why is this the ideal setup?
Well, I think, obviously it's a great place to run. It's a great place to train. Having the AIS there is really helpful too. Obviously, they've got a lot of facilities that can be utilised, but also having Dick being able to just like sort of modify things and make sort of things a little bit more, individualised for me specifically is probably the biggest thing. I think, when you go over and join a college team, you're not really going to get that same level of treatment. So I think having that ability to be, really individualised in training and stuff, I think is the biggest thing.
And so talk us through those initial, so at what point, so when you get a manager, do you reach out for a manager or does Templeton come and see you and then talk us through the whole pro negotiations, like how that all pans out?
Well, actually it was a pretty simple thing because at the time, or still, Jai and Rory managed by JT. So JT obviously comes up and does comes to Perisher and stuff, and so he'd sort of seen me training and stuff, and so he actually got me into that mile race. And so actually we got to backtrack to probably Box Hill. So I ran 3:40 there, and I think a couple of days after he said, that he was just going to start reaching out to brands and, you know, having the conversation. And I think then a couple of weeks later, I ran the 355, and those sort of conversations became a little bit more serious. And so, yeah, it actually took quite a while to sort of finalize things. I didn't sign until probably June, and I started negotiating in January. So it took quite a while, but I think taking as much time as we did, it sort of meant that we got the right contract and had, you know, the right environment around us, which was good.
Yeah. And so why Nike over some of the other brands? Like, so was it more just purely a money thing, or the brand itself? Like,
well, obviously money is involved. No doubt about that. But I think the biggest thing was just there was no stipulations on where I had to be, and, you know, joining a team or whatever that would be, going to college. There was just like, there's nothing. It was just, you know, you can decide what you do with your setup, and then, you know, we're just going to support you, which is, I guess, the biggest thing. As an athlete, you just need that support, and yeah.
And getting back to the comparisons with Jakob, because you were basically on the same trajectory as him, does that help your contract, do you think, in terms of, like, you know, you potentially could be on more money than a seasoned professional who has run a little bit faster than you just because of your potential?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a brand's always got to sort of like roll the dice, especially on these young, talented guys, people like, you know, Hobbs Kessler, was it Drew Hunter? Yeah, all those sort of guys. And brands just kind of have to take the risk, and, you know, it might pay off, it might not, but I think, yeah, it's just a big risk, and hopefully it pays off. And
can you tell us how many years you originally signed for with Nike?
Yeah, I think it was 5.5, 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually have to go back and look at that, but
yeah. All right, so let's talk about your last track season. So, you know, you obviously ran some quick times, like you just missed your PB at Bankstown, beating the former world champion in Jake Whiteman, ran some Diamond Leagues, won a silver medal at World Juniors. Happy with the season?
I'm pretty disappointed, to be honest. I think I started really well, and I think that it was just hard to sort of carry that momentum forward. I think probably Nationals was not a great result. Not a great result there. And I think going overseas, it was sort of like I was chasing pretty hard. So I guess every race needed to be, you know, really good. And I think it started okay, but it was pretty difficult. And so I didn't really run many, I guess, fast 1500s, which was what I really needed to do. And I guess I had sort of one opportunity to do it, and it was in Nice. And it was like, it wasn't a great race, so I kind of had to do it off the front, which was pretty difficult. But yeah, it couldn't run as fast as I needed to, which was ultimately the only thing that was going to get me selected for Paris. And I think, it really just came down to Nationals, which was,
And when you don't make the Olympics, obviously, like, you would have been disappointed, and there's people out there would say, hey, you're 17, you've got 3-4 more Olympics ahead of you. But do the selectors actually call you and say, hey, look, we're not picking you, and this is the reason we're not picking you? Do you get any feedback?
Yes and no. I think there's certain... I'm pretty lucky because I have sort of, I guess, Sean Crichton is in Canberra. So I think I was back in Canberra probably between my European season and World Juniors, and I actually did happen just to bump into him on a long run, and he was running around the oval. So he did give me some feedback, which was good, but generally not really. But I kind of just knew, like, after Nationals it was going to be pretty difficult, and it's like our sport's pretty clear cut. I mean, you kind of know what you got to do to qualify, and to me it wasn't really a surprise after, I think after I didn't run faster in Europe, it was kind of like, I'm not going to get selected, and nor should I at that point. So
what position do you reckon you needed to finish at Nationals? Because I agree with you. I think if you have a good Nationals, you're probably on the team. And so what is that, first or second? Yeah,
realistically, probably first or second. Third might have done it, but it's pretty hard to tell because Stewie had to run, I think, 3:31 in the period. And so, I mean, our sport is pretty clear cut, so it actually makes it quite, it's pretty easy just to know where you're at. And so I guess, like, reflecting on my season, it was just kind of like I wasn't where I needed to be realistically. So it kind of made going into this next season pretty easy for me. It was like I need to change a few things. Get a little bit stronger, so then next year I'm not left off the team realistically. Yeah.
Are you ready to make history with the newest Abbott World Marathon Major? The TCS Sydney Marathon is officially part of the prestigious Abbott World Marathon Majors, and now's your chance to take on its inaugural race. Sign up and enter the ballot today. There's a reason this marathon has become Australia's biggest. Our all-new 2024 course is faster, more fun, and delivers an unforgettable experience. With hundreds of thousands of spectators lining the streets, you'll be running through one of the most iconic cities in the world. The ballot opens on Tuesday 10th of December at 10 a.m. and closes Monday the 30th of December at 11:59 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. One entry per person. Results will be announced between the 8th and 9th of January 2025. This is not a first-come, first-served system. Every application is equally considered in a random draw. So if you encounter a wait when trying to register, just come back a little later. Whether you're chasing your first start or your seventh, Sydney is the marathon you've been waiting for. Enter the ballot now at tcssydneymarathon.com. Don't wait, secure your spot now. So World Juniors. So I think going into World Juniors, you were ranked maybe second on PBs.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? What were your goals? Did you come away happy?
Yeah, well, I pretty much went in with the goal to win, and that was pretty much it. I know the Ethiopian guy had run, I think, maybe a second quicker than me, but you never really know. Like, sometimes I was looking at some of his results, and I think he ran in Paris too in the 1500. I'm not entirely sure, but he'd had some results that were kind of up and down. So I was like, yeah, this guy could be pretty beatable. He ran the 5K as well, I think like maybe a couple of days earlier. So I was like, yeah, he might have some fatigue in the legs. So I just tried to make it somewhat quick from, I guess, 800 out. And I was like, well, I ran a pretty good race, executed it pretty well. And ultimately, he just beat me in like the last 10, 15 meters. So couldn't really be too disappointed with that. But the goal was definitely to win. Yeah.
And do you think the Diamond League, because a lot of people that go to World Juniors, especially a lot of Aussie athletes, that's the pinnacle for them. Like, they've never competed at that level, whereas, you've been in Diamond Leagues previously.
Yeah.
Like, I know you don't feel any nerves or any pressure, but did you feel more pressure at World Juniors knowing that there was probably a bit more expectation on you than, say, a Diamond League?
Not really, because I sort of went into the heat with just like, well, I just got to run 340 in the heat and I'll qualify. So it kind of like, I had a lot of confidence going to the heat that I was going to qualify. So I didn't really get very nervous about that. And then obviously the final, it was kind of, I definitely got a little bit nervous, but not really. Like, I just sort of knew that I just wind it up and see what happens. And yeah, generally speaking, if I run to the way that I can run, I think it's going to make it pretty hard for me to like get run off the podium or something. So I wasn't too stressed, and I just like sort of knew that I just need to execute a good race.
Yeah.
So
one thing that's always stood out with me is you never seem intimidated. Like, even I remember actually one of the first races I ever saw you was watching the live stream of the New South Wales 3K champs the year that you won. I think you ran like 8:10, and were you 16 then or 15?
16.
Yeah, so 16 and it's just like, you're running against, although it's a different league to like Diamond Leagues and stuff, it's like you're a young kid, but it's like you don't seem intimidated. Tactically, you always seem like you're generally in the right spots.
Yeah.
Is that just because of the no nerves thing, that you never feel intimidated by like faster athletes? And
yeah, I think there's definitely a bit of that, and I think there's certain times where you can I do get intimidated, and I think like races, I guess, nationals, I probably got a little bit too intimidated by someone like Ollie, who, I'd only raced him once before, which was like a year prior, and he beat me quite comfortably. But I think I was like a little bit too worried about what he was doing, so I wasn't, focused on running my own race, and probably should have just kicked a lot earlier. So I think, definitely being intimidated is probably the biggest thing in races that holds you back. And I think generally you just kind of just gotta own up and sort of race how you race best. So.
So with that nationals race, so the fact that you were maybe a bit intimidated by Ollie, what does that make you do? Like, does that make you just sit back and not like put your, like, say if Ollie wasn't there, how do you run it differently?
Yeah, well, I think I was just generally a passenger in the race rather than someone that was actually going in and changing the outcome. So I think I was positioned pretty well, like a lap to go. Arguably, you don't want to be on the outside of lane one, but I was, at the front. I should have probably started to wind it up a little bit earlier, and I didn't. And ultimately, that sort of meant that someone comes around me, I get checked, and that sort of means that because I'm too focused on what other people are doing, you sort of like you lose that position that you had. So it's crazy how quick things can change, like within like 100 meters or so. So yeah, I think it's really important just to trust your gut and sort of go with those moves that you think that you should be making.
Which, last weekend in that 3K, it's like you pretty much controlled the race. Like you absolutely dominated it from start to finish because you obviously weren't intimidated and you're running your own race.
I guess being a strength-based athlete too, I think a faster pace is going to naturally suit me a little bit more. And I do enjoy sort of racing right on that knife's edge. So I guess the faster races, it's probably, just gonna benefit me more. So I think in future, making sure the pace is honest and even when the pace slows, just making sure that if you're the one that's got to go to the front and push it on, so be it.
Yeah. All right, let's talk nuts and bolts of training. So you mentioned your original coach Lee Bobbin. When you left him, it sort of did create a few sort of headlines.
Yeah.
Why did you leave Lee?
So at the time, I was doing probably most of my sessions with Dick. So like obviously we trained together, and so I was doing most of my sessions with Dick, and I guess they were butting heads a little bit about what they should be doing. So Lee had a slightly different philosophy, which was a little bit more speed orientated, and I think for me personally, I'm more on the strength side. So having a strength-based coach was probably going to suit me a little bit more than Lee was. So I think it was just kind of a natural transition, and
And relationship with Lee now, like was it?
We're still pretty much on good terms. I mean, obviously it's probably pretty disappointing for him to lose myself, and also at the time he lost Tom Powerfree like a year before maybe. So I guess he had two good juniors that he pretty much got to like, I guess 338 and 340s, which is pretty good for juniors. Yeah. And so he probably, feels that he had the ability to take us that step further. And so obviously that's going to be quite disappointing, but yeah, we're still on pretty good terms.
And so with your training, maybe talk us through what you do Monday through to Sunday, what you do for each day, and maybe also explain how it's changed from last season to this season, because I know you are doing more on the treadmill with lactate monitors and stuff like that. So maybe start with Monday and go all the way through to Sunday. Yeah,
so Mondays I run probably 20k broken into 2 runs, whether that be 12 and 8, 10 and 10, something similar. It doesn't always equal 20, it's just like thereabouts. And then I also do a speed session, the Arvo, which will be like, it differs week to week, obviously, but like 4 by 50 meters or 4 by 40 meters, 5 by 100 meters, something like that. Just a speed session, which will be pretty much, top speed for like a good percentage of that. So
what's recovery in those sort of things like?
Pretty generous, as much as you need really. Whether that be 2, 3, 4 minutes, doesn't really matter.
And is anyone there, like, do you have like a sprints coach that's focusing on technique and that sort of thing?
Not really. I mean, Dick comes down and he's obviously supervising us there, but it's kind of just like, it doesn't really matter what you do. I guess it's just more getting the speed in the legs. So that sort of changed from last season where I didn't really do that at all. To be honest, I didn't even really do strides either. Which probably isn't great, but so that's Monday. And I also do that Wednesday too. So that's Monday and Wednesday. Tuesday will be a track session, which is more like, depends on the time of the year, but it would be either, I guess, VO2 or more specific work, which I guess this time of year it's a bit more on the VO2 side, but last couple of weeks I sort of tapped into race specific stuff, and that'll usually be like 4s, 3s, and 2s. But we always keep it on like a jog recovery, so I'm never really stopping. So if I'm doing 400s, it might be 4, 5, 6 400s off like a 200 jog in, I guess, 40 seconds. And then 300s and 100 jog in like 30 seconds, and 200s either standing recovery or jogging as well. So
it's sort of like those 4s off a 200 sort of flow. It's almost like you do like half deep quarters.
Yeah, well that's, we start our sessions quite often with that. So we have those times in mind that we have like run in the past. So.
And then when you do the 4s off a 200 flow, and then you have a bit of a break, and then you do the 3. So how much break do you have between the sets?
Just like a lap jog. So it'd be like 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes if you've got to change shoes and stuff. It's not really too strict. I think like the actual effort's more in that the set, so it doesn't really matter if we have a bit longer of a break, because the lactate's going to come down naturally anyway. So.
And what about on a during the winter on a Tuesday? Because I noticed you guys get a fair bit of volume in, and often start with like a 2K sort of tempo and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so if it's a winter, it'll usually be like a 2K threshold. We usually actually start most of our sessions with like a 2K and then 2x200, which is, I quite like doing it. Kind of primes the system before a sort of a harder effort. So yeah, we always start our sessions with 2K, 2x200, and then it was like 4 by mile, and then maybe another couple 200s. So it might total like 10K worth of work, which it's not too bad.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday afternoon, probably be another run, like 30 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm. So
Thursday, yeah. So at the moment, I've pretty much split my instead of doing one really big threshold session, whether that be like, I don't know, 12 to 16K, I just split it into 2. And so it'll usually be like, I guess, 25 minutes ish in the morning, and that'll probably be like slightly longer reps, I guess 6 to 8 or 9 minutes at the max. And that'll just be like to LT1, so pretty chill.
So you've been doing those ones, the morning ones on the treadmill. What sort of pace do you set the treadmill at?
Like 18 like 4 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of just differs, I guess, based week to week, fatigue and stuff like that. So,
and lactate, like yours stays under 2, doesn't it, when you're doing those sessions?
Yeah, at that pace it's usually like 1.5. So.
Some of your long runs out at Mulligan's where you get rolling at 3:30s would probably be higher lactate than that.
Yeah, I reckon some of the long runs we push a little bit too hard. But that's a boredom factor, I reckon. I don't really enjoy the long runs at all. Yeah. So, Thursday Arvo, it'll be, again, pretty, not that much volume, like I guess 7 to 8K, whether that be like, usually it's just Ks because it's the easiest to control. And I guess Stromler is pretty nice just to like have a break after each K. Mm-hmm. It's pretty flat. It's the flattest loop you can do there, so that's quite nice. So yeah, it'd be like 7 by K off probably like 30, 45 seconds. So it's pretty short rest, but it is quite a lot faster in the morning. So. And
what sort of pace do you normally roll for those Ks off 30 seconds?
Depends kind of what the weather is. Stromler can be quite windy sometimes, but like 305.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
you're doing these to like heart rate as well as lactate?
Yeah. It kind of just depends. Like when Stromler's really windy, it's pretty hard to set up the lactates there. But up at Perisher, it was quite easy because I'd have the boot of my car. So but more often than not, just heart rate and lactate.
And have you done testing to get all your zones sorted?
Yeah. So I guess that's the good thing about having the AIS there. So, yeah. And then Friday, usually just the day off now, which is quite good. I quite enjoy it because obviously Thursday's probably pretty close to 30K. So, having the day off's nice. And then going into Saturday, it'll be like usually VO2 most of the year. Even in the winter, it'd be more like some hills as well. But so this time of year, it'll be like Ks. Yeah, Ks, 600s, kind of just depends what we've got on. A session that we did before Zatopek was like I guess, a threshold. So a threshold 2x200 and then like 5x600, and it's pretty short rest, but pretty close to 3k pace. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Otherwise, it'd just be like 6 or 7 by k off like pretty short rest, minute and a half, and.
But you're running them at what, 250 ish?
Yeah. So Dick will kind of throw in some faster reps at some point. Most weeks we'll throw in a faster rep or two. So yeah, the slower reps will be like 250, 248s. The quicker reps will be like 238s, 236s. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Sunday or Saturday Arvo run?
Yeah. 7k, 30 minutes ish. So yeah. And then Sunday, it kind of depends week to week. Dick doesn't really care if I do a long run or not because it's not really that important for us. So we can either split it again like just a Monday or Wednesday and just do like 20k broken into 2 runs, or just run 20k. And sometimes I just prefer getting it out in one run, to be honest, because yeah, it's pretty good luck finding someone to run with on a Sunday afternoon. So yeah, it doesn't really matter which one I do.
And so that's about what, 120, 130k a week at the moment?
Yeah, 130, 125. Yeah. 6 days of running, so I double most days though. So. Yeah.
And favourite types of sessions and least favourite types of sessions?
Yeah. Geez. Yeah, sometimes you can really dread the Tuesdays and the Saturdays, especially like, yeah, when you know you've got like a pretty hard like VO2 session. Probably my least favourite session. My favourite session probably be like 400s off, I guess, just a static recovery because we don't do that many times. So yeah, I guess race pace 400 is pretty difficult, but it's only sort of enjoyable if you have like a group of people to do it with. So I guess like when Jai and Connor are both running, so that sort of makes it pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, and how's that been for you? Because obviously a couple of years ago when you first sort of joined Dick's group, you had Jai and you had Rory.
Yeah.
Both of those guys haven't really been around the last year or so. Yeah. Is it making it harder to get out and get the training done?
I think at the start, so Jai got injured probably in mid-February. So definitely for a little while after, it was pretty tough to get out, do the sessions at the same quality. But I think now I'm actually like probably exceeding that a little bit, and it's actually, fine. I can get up and do it fine. I don't really rely on, having training partners to sort of run with. It's just like more the warm up and the cool down that you kind of value the company, I guess, because it can be pretty boring doing everything.
Very good. Next question. Interests. Oh, actually, no. I have heard some rumours that you and Dick occasionally have a few heated discussions about type, what he wants you to do versus what you want to do. Now, which goes to show, because we were chatting before we started recording, that there's a lot of athletes that aren't really interested in the science of running, or they're just talented athletes. They rock up and just do what the coach says. Whereas I feel like you've read a lot of things. You're actually interested in learning about how to become a better athlete. Yeah. So what are these sort of discussions between you and Dick? Why do they get heated? What does he want you to do? And what do you want to do?
Well, more often than not, they just come from, I guess, sometimes we'll have some really big sessions and more, it'll be like a hot day or something, and we've had a couple pretty heated ones, but more often than not, it's just like, why are we doing it? And so once I sort of get that answer and I sort of understand why we're doing it, I don't really care. But I just like to know why we're doing certain things, and I guess the time of the year and stuff like that. So
when you say on those hot days, like he still wants you to do like a big volume session, and you're sort of like, hey, it's hot, let's cut it back a little bit.
Yeah, there was one time we're at Stromo, and I don't even think it was that hot, like comparatively to what it is now, but it was like the changing of seasons. So it was going from cold Canberra to pretty hot Canberra, and it was pretty funny. Like we were doing, I think, like an 8k and a 4k, so that's pretty big. And I'd only just kind of got back to running from my break, and that was a bit of a reality check. But I actually finished the session, but not many other people finished the session, and he kind of just went like, it was me and a couple other guys were standing there, and he goes, if you don't finish this session, you're weak as piss, which is pretty funny. So Dick can get pretty heated. But actually, I finished that session, so yeah, well, that wasn't directed at me. So yeah,
it's interesting you say that because we're talking on the weekly show. Just gone. One of the list of questions was about how you adjust things in the heat, and obviously it's like some of those longer sessions pretty brutal to get done. So I reckon you just got right. You're probably in the right to like try and cut it back a bit.
Yeah, but to be fair, I think it's kind of just a thing within Australia to sort of overrun your thresholds, and I think like that's the biggest thing is like had we just done exactly what he wanted, which was to run like quite slow, it would have been fine. But the thing is, it's just like the tendency to run a lot quicker, especially when you're doing like a 12K session and you start with an 8K rep. It's like it's so easy just to run a lot quicker than you're supposed to, and so I guess he was in the right there, but it's quite funny.
Interests outside of running, what do you like to do in your spare time?
I watch a lot of sport. Other than that, I'm pretty dialed in, but occasionally I go play frisbee golf or rock climbing, but if you just get so tired. It's like I'll go like rock climbing and I'll be sore for a week, so it's like don't get rock climbing that much. So yeah, other than that, it's pretty. I mean, there's not really that much you can do in Canberra. I would say like going to the beach and stuff, but even then you don't really go there very often. So
what sort of sports do you like watching?
I do watch a little bit of football, but not that much, and that's both soccer and AFL, I guess. So yeah, other than that, yeah. Yeah.
And before you became a pro, like when you were at school, like do you have any part-time jobs or anything?
Yeah, so I worked at the cafe for a while. So I worked every Sunday for like I guess 7-8 hours. So that made long running pretty grim as well. So it's probably another reason I don't really like doing the long runs, because I also had to do them like I guess 6 o'clock when it was getting dark and stuff. So I worked there for probably about a couple of years, 2 years maybe.
Yeah. And so your support structure, so how many times a week are you going to the gym? Do you get regular physio and massage? Do you work with like a sports psych?
So at the moment I go to the gym like 3 times a week. So I go like Monday as more of a primer for a Tuesday session. So I don't really lift. I lift heavy maybe for one exercise, and then the rest is kind of just priming the body for the session on Tuesday. I also lift on Wednesday, which is it's pretty standard, and then Saturday as well. So
and what do you go to what are your main sort of exercises that you're doing in the gym?
I do quite a lot, but my favorite one is trap bar deadlift. I think that's the most fun, because last year I was doing like deadlifts, and I didn't really rate that as much. Like I think you get more tension on the back, so I actually quite like the trap bar deadlifts. That's definitely my favorite. Physio, probably not as much as I should, but to be fair, I haven't really had many injuries, I guess, or niggles over the past couple of years. So like I kind of do see them when I need to. I guess once a week would pretty standard for me, but yeah, definitely not utilizing it as much as I could be.
And is that through NAS?
Yeah. So I can see. I don't even know if they like set a limit on it, but yeah, I guess I just see the guy at the AIS, which is pretty good, and I also see Rory as well, because Rory does a lot of physio and he's pretty good. So I guess it kind of helps him having a background in running. So yeah.
What about like sports psych?
No. Again, like I've been offered it through the AIS, but it's like, why change something if it's not broken? So yeah.
Very good. You said early on in the interview that you don't particularly like doing the media stuff.
Yeah.
But then when you're at the track, like most distance runners I know are quite introverted, and whereas I feel like you've got like a bit of showman vibes about you, like like the footage last year of you winning at Bankstown and the crowd just like swarming you, and then hearing that you stayed back and signed autographs for ages, and then at the 3K on the weekend you cross the finish line and you give away your trophy. Like I've never seen anybody give away the trophy. It's like, where does this come from? Like, are you trying to actually be somewhat entertaining, a bit of a Aussie Craig Engels, or like you definitely don't shy away from being involved with the fans, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because I guess I don't really try, but the trophy was pretty funny because I kind of like looked at it and I was like, I don't really want this, and I'm sorry to whoever designed it, but it was like, I kind of looked at it, and I don't really keep medals or anything, to be fair. Yeah, I don't really keep any of that stuff. So the guy was just standing in front of me, and I was like, well, he might value this more than I will, so I kind of just gave it away. And I guess to your point on like staying and talking to fans and stuff like that, I think it's just kind of what you're supposed to do, really. Like, I mean, you're kind of like paid to be an entertainer almost, I suppose. So I guess it's just like it's the least you can do, right? It's like spend some time with your fans and stuff. So obviously sometimes you finish your races and it's probably not the thing that you're most looking forward to, but I guess it's kind of just part of your job, right?
Well, it is, but like I'd expect that from, you know, maybe people that are into their 20s, 30s, been around for a while. But like for you to have that much, I guess, maturity to sort of realise that, hey, like I'm still getting paid salary here by a shoe company. I should actually be promoting the sport. Like,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of athletes out there that get paid that don't actually do that.
Yeah, well, I guess that's kind of just because at the end of the day, I'm a fan of the sport. Like, yeah, and you know that could have been me at the same time. So it's like these guys that I'm talking to, you know, more often than not are only like, I guess, 16, 15. So it's like realistically, we're not that far apart in age. So yeah, it's probably the least I can do, really.
And do you have, so outside of like the guys like Jai and stuff, like do you have role models either in running or role models like outside in other sports, or like who do you look up to?
Not really. I think like generally I'm just like a fan of you know, most of the top guys. I'm pretty much like at some point I would say I'm a fan of them. So like yeah, obviously Jakob, it's like I'm a fan of his running. I like what he's doing. And Kerr as well. You know, all the top guys. I'd say that, you know, I have a lot of respect for them, and I think that like there's a lot to be learned from guys like that.
Yeah. So given like, back to the medal thing, surely you kept a world junior medal.
Yeah, I did keep that. I didn't really mean to keep that either. I just found it in my bag when I got back. So.
Amazing. So look, you've already achieved so much at such a young age. Like, what does success for you, like let's start with 2025. Like if we're sitting down having a chat next year, what's a successful 2025 look like for you?
Well, there's obviously times that like I would love to hit, but I think I sort of like sat down, I was just thinking about my goals probably like a couple of months ago, and I was like, well, what I need to do is like obviously qualify for world champs is the number one thing, and I think the other thing is running the standard. So those are the two goals I guess that I've set for myself, and it's like anything else is a bonus. So I guess looking at 2025, it's pretty simple. It's two goals. You know, make the world champs and run the stand. And I guess if I qualify, which hopefully I do, then I guess I'll reevaluate my goals probably while I'm there, to be honest. But just starting it very simple, very basic.
So like, let's assume that you do make worlds. Like, given, you know, you need to be world class to even qualify. Like, and after hearing you for the last hour or so, like you're not the type of person that wants to go to worlds and make up the numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
And get run out in the heats. Like, surely, like, is fine. Like the final is basically.
Yeah. I kind of think that the way that Australian running is at the moment, if you're qualifying for a team, you should pretty much, I guess, come somewhat close to making final. So, yeah, if I was to qualify, the goal would be immediately to make the final, and then it's like if you do that, then it's like you just got to set, I guess, the goal to win a medal. So I think it would pretty much take 3:29 to sort of get there. So that's kind of the way I look at it. Yeah,
and obviously down the track, Olympic medals are sort of what you're aiming for.
Yeah, so 2028 and 2032. So yeah.
Now you hold a heap of junior records. Do you know how many records you hold?
Probably wouldn't take me that long to figure out.
So what do you got? You got the under 21K.
1K.
You got the under
2:15s, a mile, a 3K, 2 3Ks.
Yep.
What's that? Yeah,
so
6.
About seven, something like that.
Yeah.
Now we were out running a while back, and you knew all the other under 20
Yeah.
national records. So Mizan Mahari's 5K record's 13:25, and you were even talking about wanting to maybe have a crack at Deke's under 20 10,000 meter record of 28:50. Like, are you seriously wanting to do that in the next couple of years before you turn 20?
Well, it's pretty hard because so the way that they do under 20s is obviously off calendar year, so it means that I'd have the end of 2025, and I mean I'm not going out of my way to look for 5K to run. I would like to think that I could probably give it a shake within the next 12 months if I wanted to, but I think it's pretty difficult to work in a 5K in that sort of period, and had Zatopek been a 5K, I would have loved to run it, but it's not. So the 10K, maybe I'll run Zatopek next year because I think that would be pretty fun. But yeah, as long as I have like a 3, it's pretty difficult to go and say like, well, I'm gonna run a 10K on the track over a 3, especially because it's like Zatopek's never really run that fast anyways. Like, I mean, aside from the year that I guess they brought paces, 2 years ago. So
yeah, but there's normally running under 28:50. So
yeah.
But I was surprised when you said that, because it's like I look at because there's the comparisons to Jakob. It's like, well, Jakob doesn't try and just break every record along. Like, he basically stayed real niche for a long time. 1500, 3K, the odd 5K.
Yeah.
Whereas here you are talking about going up to 10.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't really change my training that much, but I think because of how much sort of volume I'm doing and the actual specific volume I'm doing in sessions, it would kind of be pretty. It wouldn't be that difficult to sort of I do a couple specific sessions and I could have a crack at it. But also, I think Deke's record, it's pretty pretty historic. It's almost 50 years. So yeah, I think that would be a pretty cool one to have.
I think you'd do it. 28:50, I think, is well and truly
to be fair though, I could also try and do it on the roads, which is that would probably work in better with what I'm doing. But I'm not going to go out of my way to try and find a race to do.
Couple more questions. So the rise of Aussie juniors at the moment. So as I said in the past, we've had some really good juniors.
Yeah.
And but the difference is with you current lots, I'm talking about Claudia, Peyton, and now Gout. It's like you guys are not only great juniors, but you're running world class times. Why are Aussie juniors running so fast?
Yeah. There's actually a couple more you could add to that list too. So there's plenty of them going around. But I think it's just more you see someone do it, and then it's well, you can do that too. Probably. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's just that mentality of someone does it and then everyone starts to do it. So I think it's just that changing the tides, and I think we're gonna continue seeing these times come down. Even in the 800, seeing Daniel Williams run 147. It's that almost seems normal, and it probably didn't get as much recognition as he deserved, because it's how many juniors have you seen run? Under 18s running 147? It's pretty unreal, and I think it's a testament just to. I think AA's done a pretty good job of the development of some of these guys, but also the coaches, the personal coaches have done such a great job. So yeah.
Strava, you love posting everything on Strava. There's a lot of athletes at your level that don't put stuff on Strava. Why do you choose to do it?
Oh, there's no real secrets in running, I guess. It's we're all doing pretty much the same thing. So it's I've got everything on Strava, and you can even look at my splits, my workouts and everything. Yeah. So yeah. And
can you give us a rundown of where we'll be seeing you race over the next few months?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to go and do it indoors because there's not really many races here. So they don't have a 1500 until Perth track classic, and I didn't really want to go over to Perth. So I was pretty good opportunity to go over, run some indoor races. I'm going to do Milrose, so that'll be pretty good. And then I'll do maybe one other, but it'll be pretty short and sweet. And so you pretty much just try, go over there, run the standard would be the goal. And then I'll do Maury Plant too, which would be good because that should be the biggest race in domestic, in Australia's. I don't want to say history, but it could be because they're bringing some big names out there. So yeah, should be good.
Have you seen do you know some athletes are coming out for it? Do you?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure I'm allowed to say any of them, but yeah, it's going to be pretty big, and I think bigger than when they brought Fred Curley out and even Jake. So yeah.
And so with Milrose, is that want to make a mile? Is that?
Yeah,
so you're going to do that one.
That should be pretty good. I don't know who's doing that, but given that Cole and Grant are doing the 3K, I think there'd be a mix between the two of them. Maybe even Yared doing the 3K too. But I think because the world record's only 3:47, it's like if you're a 3:48 guy outdoors, it's pretty appealing to go and chase that world record. So yeah, hopefully it should be good field.
Well, Cam, you've been absolutely amazing for the last hour. I'm glad that we finally sat down and did this interview. All the best. Well, firstly, congratulations on everything you've achieved over the last couple of years, and all the best for the next season. And hopefully we can get you back on the podcast every now and then, just pop in for a bit of an update of where you're at.
Yeah, it'll be good. Thanks for having me.
Talking about finishes, picture it. Crossing the finish line at the world-famous Sydney Opera House, the crowd cheering, and your name forever etched in marathon history. This is your moment, and it starts today. The TCS Sydney Marathon ballot closes December 30th. Don't wait. Secure your spot at tcssydneymarathon.com and be part of history.